In the prologue of Invisible Man, an unnamed narrator opens the novel with the words, "I am an invisible man." Now, he isn't literally invisible, but rather his invisibility stems from the fact that no one sees him as a unique human being with free will, thoughts, or feelings of his own. One evening, a white man bumps into the narrator and calls him a racial slur. The narrator leaps onto the man, demanding an apology. But even after nearly beating the man to death, the man continues his racist rant, refusing to apologize. The next morning, newspapers report that the man had been mugged. It's this kind of subtle erasure of the facts that illuminates the narrator's perspective regarding not being acknowledged as a part of invisibility. The narrator says he's been invisible for so long, he sometimes wonders if he exists at all. The narrator explains he had lived as a law-abiding citizen, but when he realized that society didn't value or appreciate him, he went into hibernation. Now he lives in a hidden room, his hole below an all-white apartment building. He's covered the ceiling and walls with light bulbs. He finishes the prologue ruminating on his love and respect for jazz music, and establishing that the rest of the novel will be a retelling of how he ended up here, living as an invisible man. The prologue before the main story or action of a novel is a framing device that introduces the main themes and conflicts, in this case, where the narrator describes what his life is like in the present. The novel follows the narrator through his past, on a journey from naive youth to enlightened, though embittered man. When the narrator says he's invisible, he means that he has no individual identity. People, as we'll learn, simply see a black man, allowing their definitions of what a black man is to define him. This notion of racial identity and the expectations and history of that identity are major themes throughout the novel. By not conforming to the visions of others, he feels essentially he's rendered invisible. When he attacks and almost kills the white man for calling him an offensive name, the narrator is trying to force the man to see him as a person, not as a label. Bumping into others is how the narrator can be seen, and in some cases, literally felt in the world. The narrator views himself as a victim of a blind society that refuses to recognize him. The narrator's living situation is also highly symbolic. In an underground hole filled with light bulbs, where he says, "Light confirms my reality." Throughout the novel, light is a symbol of enlightenment and social education, whereas darkness is symbolic of ignorance. Those who refuse to acknowledge the narrator as an individual are often described as blind or sleepwalking, which are simply different ways of saying that they live in the dark. Finally, listening to jazz allows the narrator to experience a convergence of time as past and present mingle together in the music. And like the prologue itself, he describes time as a boomerang and that history is not linear, but layered, coming back on itself.